Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be installing a toilet in our new bathroom, so stick around and see what I've got planned. Alright, so to start, we haven't installed the flooring yet, so it's a perfect time to install the toilet flange and get the plumbing hooked up and everything ready to go. So first we're going to set the toilet in place where we want it to go, and I'm going to mark out the outline of this toilet. This is really important because once I have the toilet moved, I can make all the measurements, make sure I cut the hole in the right place, and get the toilet flange right where it needs to go. So I'm also going to be marking the 2 holes for the bolts that go down through the toilet, and this will tell me exactly where I need to drill out a hole for the toilet flange. Now that I have the outline down, I need to measure the bottom of the toilet and see where the pipe is coming through. This will tell me where I need to put the toilet flange and line everything up. So I'm going to quickly get that measurement, and then I'll come back over to the outline that I have here and measure that out to get the right spot. Hey guys, don't forget to hit that like button down below if you like this video. If you have any comments or suggestions or questions, leave that in the comment section down below. And if you have not yet subscribed, I post a video each week. So if you want to keep up with those DIY projects, hit that subscribe button. Now I'll get back to work. Now to find the center where the toilet flange needs to go, I'm going to drill down through with a small drill bit to see where the center is on the plumbing below to make sure it's lined up with where the toilet needs to be. So I'm going to go quickly downstairs, check that, and it's off just a little bit because there is a floor joist right in the way. Now I'm going to show you guys how to do this without having to chop the floor joist away and ruin the integrity of your floor or having to replace the floor joist. Now I'm going to make the slight adjustments that I need to make in order to line up with the plumbing that I've already installed downstairs, and it's only off a couple inches, which is perfect. So I'm going to drill this down through and make sure that this is centered. I'll go downstairs and double check it real quick before I proceed to the next step. Alright, so my measurements are accurate. It's lined up perfectly with the plumbing down below. And I went and bought a toilet flange that is offset a little bit. This is exactly for this reason. If you have a floor joist in the way, you need the toilet flange to move over just a little bit. This is perfect. It'll move over about 2 to 3 inches so I can get away from that floor joist and line it up perfectly with the plumbing I've already installed down in the basement. Now to cut the hole out in the floor, I'm going to use the toilet flange itself to kind of trace the outline of what I need to cut out. Now this is a little bit more difficult than just a regular toilet flange because it's not a perfect circle. It's a little bit more of an oval, and on one side you cut it at an angle so that it doesn't go through the floor joist. So I'll show you what this looks like a little bit, but you want to make sure you get close with this. You don't want to cut too much out or else the flange won't have anything to set on and screw down to. It'll just fall through the hole if it's off too much. So I'm going to try to get it as close as I can, and it's better to cut a little bit away and come back and have to cut a little bit more off in order for it to fit. Because you can't always put wood back in, you can always cut more out if you need to. So I'm going to start with cutting a little bit less than what I need, and I can adjust from there. I'm going to be using my jigsaw in order to cut out the hole for this toilet flange, and it is quite a bit of work for this jigsaw to cut through the subfloor and the plywood below. It's almost 2 inches of wood that it has to cut through, so just enough for the blade to fit through, and it's just going to take a little while to cut all the way around this. Now once I have the outline cut, I can test it and see if it needs more cut out. So I've got the hole cut out. The pipe itself fits through the hole, but it still needs that slope added onto the hole. So I'll cut with the jigsaw at an angle and try to get this as close as I can. So after a few adjustments, this should be the last one, and the flange will fit in there just perfectly. Now before I mount this toilet flange to the floor, I need to first glue it to the plumbing line that I have in the basement. Now to do this, you're going to need some extra pipe and cut it to length. Then you're going to need some PVC cleaner and PVC glue. Now if you're interested in this process and want to learn a little bit more about this more extensively, I just posted a video of redoing the septic lines throughout our whole house just a couple weeks ago, so you can go to the description down below and see the link there and go check out that video. Now before you can add the glue, you need to first put the PVC cleaner, that's the purple stuff I'm adding onto the pipe right now, and you want to add about 2 inches into the pipe, both on the pipe and the fitting as well. Now this allows the glue to bond together and add a perfect seal between the two. Now you'll also want to take the glue and spread that on the pipe as well as the fitting where the two surfaces are going to be going together. That gives the most surface for the glue to bond together and ensures that it's not going to leak. Now once you have both surfaces evenly covered with glue, you can mount the two together. And now what I do when I'm putting these pipes together is I push together really tightly, as it adds a little bit of suction. It does not want to go together with the glue in place, and what you want to do is slowly turn it until the glue completely hardens. It only takes a couple seconds for this to seize up and harden in place, but as you turn it, that makes sure that it spreads the glue evenly throughout the whole joint and completely seals. Now it's time to take off the temporary cap I had on the plumbing below, and this will open up the smell to the whole house, so I need to work as fast as I can. I'm going to be spreading the cleaner on the pipe as well as the fitting down below, and then I'll be adding the glue to both fittings, and I can now put the joint together. Now once this is in place, I'll wiggle it side to side a little bit to try to spread that glue evenly in the joint, but now it is ready to mount to the floor. So I'm going to take my drill and use about 4 or 5 screws to mount this in place. And you're not going to want to go crazy with these. Don't use 2 or 3 inch long screws. I'm using about 1.5 inch screw that will go through the subfloor I have and into the plywood below, but not come all the way through the bottom. That way you don't have to worry about going into the plumbing below or anything else. It's just enough to hold the flange securely in place. Now the flange is done, but we first need to install the flooring before we can attach the toilet. Now we just posted this video last week of doing the flooring. We used a vinyl smart core flooring for this, and it turned out beautifully. It looks just like real wood, and this stuff is easy to install. So if you're interested in seeing that video, go check that out. I'll leave the link down in the description below, but this is really awesome stuff. Now that that's finished, we can now install the toilet. Now to mount a toilet, you're going to need some sort of seal. Instead of just a plain wax seal, I decided to upgrade and get a little bit nicer one, but this comes with 2 different sections. One for if it's level with the floor, and then one for if it's below the flooring. It has a little bit of an extension. It also has wax in the bottom to squeeze down in and seal it completely, but this should work really well. Now I haven't used this type of seal before, but it should be very similar to just a plain wax seal. Came with 2 bolts and nuts to mount the toilet to the flange. Instructions, you could read those or just watch the video. And underneath this seal, there's a wax ring right there that will squeeze down and seal the flange to the toilet. And then this rubber gasket right here, this is the extension. I don't need that because my flange is already level with the floor. That is only if the flange is below the floor level, you can use that rubber ring and extend that seal up a little bit. Now the rubber gasket will face up towards the toilet. The wax seal will be down towards the flange. Now to mount this, you're going to use the 2 bolts that it came with, and there should be a groove on the flange you installed that you can insert those bolts, and they will face up towards the toilet. Now once you have those in place, they also go through the seal and kind of lock that in place. It still moves around a little bit, so you got to be careful when you put the toilet down. you don't push the seal off centered and cause a leak. So I'm going to be really careful when I put the toilet down. I'm going to be setting it down, and my wife is going to be guiding those bolts through the toilet and make sure it's all lined up. So here we go. I'm making sure everything is in place. The bolts are facing up, and then I'm going to try to set this down as centered as I can onto that seal. And my wife guided the bolts through the hole to make sure that it lined up. Alright, so I just cut off the bolt right at the level I need, and if you want to leave it at that, you can just put the washer on with the nut and forget about it. But after a while it might start rusting after you clean the toilet a few times. So I'm going to put this plastic cover over top of that nut, and it will completely cover it up and leave a nice smooth white texture over this. So first you need to add this little plastic washer. This is what snaps the cap into place and holds it down. Now this has writing on it, says this is the top. So we'll put it in facing the top, and then you just put your washer on, and then you put the nut on top of that. Now as you're tightening this down, you don't want to go crazy tight on this. You will crack the porcelain and cause a huge mess, have to buy a whole new toilet. So just tighten this down snug until it is firmly down onto the floor and you don't feel any wobble around on the toilet. Now that that is done, all we need to do now is hook up the supply to the toilet and make sure there are no leaks. So I'm going to tighten this first with my hands, get it hand tight, and then I'll come back with water pump pliers and tighten it just a little bit more. Now I'll turn on the pressure, make sure there are no leaks there at the valve, but you'll also want to check this fitting you just put on underneath the toilet supplying the toilet tank. Now I'm going to let the tank fill up, and then there's one more thing you need to check and make sure there are no leaks. Once you can flush the toilet, fill up the toilet bowl, flush it a few times, and then start checking around the toilet. Make sure you don't see any moisture around the base of the toilet. If you do see some water at the base of the toilet, your seal has malfunctioned, and you're going to need to take the toilet back up off of the floor and make sure you get the seal just right. Because if there are any leaks, you will rot out your whole floor and have to replace everything within a year or two. So make sure that seal's alright, everything looks good to me, and we're ready to finish this project today. Thanks guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below. Don't forget to subscribe and leave any comments you have down in the comment section below. Thanks guys, I'll see you in the next one.